APLD applied digital has dropped a very strong ascending trend line, leading a high to $40, now pushing back to that psychological $20 level. Is this a strong dip buying opportunity? We are seeing confluence in such a core level, or is this confluence going to lead perhaps another drop? My name is Dylan from Dylan's Trades. We're going to break that down today non-biasedly, where APLD applied digital stock price will go within the next few days and or weeks, what to expect in the top levels to watch. So, as always, we got to start off on the weekly, guys. This gives a very good long-term perspective. Each one of these candlesticks are 1 week, and when you zoom out, it's very abundant that we've seen some very parabolic activity lately, and this has regressed, giving up about almost 100% of that movement. It really started to get exciting over here when you see these very strong bars ensue, and now we're pushing right back to the center point. This is a very obvious reversion for a almost horseshoe, upside down U-esque reversion. You see this a lot with stocks to the inverse, right? They will drop and then come back to that level years later, and then leave a double top as scenario here. Typically, they'll consolidate or what have you, and there's a multitude of different things that can occur. But as of right now, we're looking at that to the contrary. We're seeing stock price make that obvious move up, now coming down, and I do think that there definitely is a lot of just impulsivity to the upside. We're looking at the last 1, 2, 3, almost 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row being red, guys, dropping from 40 to 20, straight away coming back down to this. We know that being located around that $20 level, straight away on the weekly analysis, if we lose that $20 level, we would be breaking down beneath this wick. Definitely would lead to more downside, but there definitely is a lot more upside than down here, guys. You could see a spike right back up to 30 or some sort of a red to green reversal. Beside this one little tiny doji candle, which does form an indecision within the market, which barely maintained green, you're seeing 1 red, 2 red, 3, 4, 5 red weeks in a row, pushing down with 50% margin. Very massive amounts, guys. And I do think we're in the contention for a relief bounce, even if that is just a couple dollars higher, pushing up $6, $7, $8. Then we'll see what the bulls have at this instance. But I do not believe we're going to see another red candle. Very strong chance for perhaps an abnormal wide bar or some sort of a bullish engulfing that is going to be your best friend if you're a buyer here. Does seem like a pretty good buy low opportunity in a very good spot to perhaps dollar cost average. Because even if we do fade off here, guys, we're getting back towards that very core support now to these lower levels. Being $15, $17, even have some strong support around $13 and lower. We've been following this back around $9 on the channel, and it did make sense to pull back at $40 for sure, giving these topping tails and a lot of rejection signs. The overall market had a lot of negative news. A lot of things led to that drop, but as of right now, I do believe we're undervalued in the market. Definitely like the long-term perspective here from APLD. We need to see the buyers step up and defend $20, but I do think they've already started to doing that. So with that being said, that leads us to the next step within the analysis, which is the daily analysis. And we see a really good example of these, highlighted pockets, guys. We're seeing 3 phases come back to one another. Before we've seen this very parabolic, uptrend, it did form with this very nice, tight little structure, getting that upside breakout, then a gap, grind up into another gap. Right, so now we're coming back down to this pocket. We were forming a very similar structure here, guys, almost to a T, showing that upside opportunity that ended up pulling back with the markets over the course of the last 2 days. The jobs report did come out and pretty much drop a lot of these stocks at the same time, and that is what you're seeing with this candle. Okay, if we didn't get that negative catalyst, we're likely much higher, pushing towards $29. So I do think we're seeing great example of a news catalyst actually give you a better dip right back into that pocket. And now we're noting a hammer candle showing that the buyers defended a very core spot, even momentarily going below $20, which is a classic, really good spot for a fake breakdown to revert back higher. When stock price gets to these big levels, guys, we'll say this red dashed line is it, and then you start to break below it for a little bit, and then boom, that is what you call a hammer candle. This will show on the daily analysis guys, very good image here. And I do think that we will see that impulsivity, right? Just leading back to the weekly. I think they really do correspond. Does make sense to push back up towards that $25 level, moving into next week. Very appropriate price target here on the daily. And from a little bit more medium-term perspective, I think $29, $30 is possible, but we have to see what happens. Once again, very overextended movement to the downside. We did see stock price trying to get this bull flag here, and I ended up breaking down with news and just a lot of negativity breaking down, looking to get back in that channel, rejecting. But I do think there is spot to at least push back towards that candle high around $25, perhaps higher, maybe $26, $27. We might see the bear step in then, and then some battles will occur. We'll see where the data concurs at this spot. But as of right now, it does appear as a pretty good buying low opportunity, and I really love the idea for a potential dollar cost average, right? Definitely does appear we're getting very, very, very close to the bottom, and it is very tempting to plant my flag here and say that this is the bottom. But the only thing holding me back from that is that there's a lot of negative news within the market, jumping around, just a lot of variables, and this is day to day. Okay, so that is going to be very abundant as well. So with that being said, it does look good for the bulls moving into next week. Keep an eye on $20, man. That's going to be your threshold, jumping from 20 to 25 and then 30. It is no coincidence why these levels are lined up like that. So often does happen with these top movers. So now we're in the last step within the analysis today, the hourly, guys. So this is very good for the short term. And you get a great representation, man, of that very violent breakout. It's pushed down into this very tight pennant structure around some core support, very beat down, looking for the upside. And you've seen the strong push up before coming back down, collapsing with jobs reports being very negative. Then sitting in this apex again, trying to hold it, immediately collapsing, trying to get over it, and then just pushing down lower. But to see the end of day, very strong reclaim of $20. And, not the most emphatic price action to be clear. I mean, just $2 up higher, but it's the location which makes this very prevalent. We definitely just did see a pretty nasty bear trap, but this is the whole market, guys. Jumping over to QQQ, pretty much everything was aligned with that. Major breakout levels at resistance, and then boom, pull back. And as of right now, the market is technically a little bit bearish here, but it always has the impulsivity to squeeze up higher. This is always a instance, guys. And if the Qs can get over 600, we could be right back in contention. That could have a massive, really good effect on APLD here. And, that more or less does even out. So with that being said, jumping back to the hourly, seeing the claim over $20, overall market being in a relatively neutral state. We're still $1 over it, a little bit green in after hour. You got to think that the bulls are going to push up within the next day to that $24, $25 level. Does make a lot of sense here. I do think we'll see that push with a lot of the overall market come into the next few days, getting that nice upside. We'll continue to track and monitor APLD stock price as it moves each and every day. Right, we're definitely seeing buyers interested in this level. It's at a very core spot, so we will be updating APLD stock price here on the channel for you all about 2 times per week. If you guys found any value in the video today, consider dropping a sub and a like. I appreciate you all making this part of the video. Thank you so much. Have a good day, guys. Take care. Trade smart and peace.